Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive all about AI. It's changing the world around us so quickly, and we're going to try to break it all down.
It's true. AI is having such a huge impact.
And you might think AI is, something that you need to be like a computer scientist to understand.
Right.
We're going to show you that you don't need a PhD to get it.
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll be surprised by how much you've learned. I can guarantee that.
Absolutely. AI is not some far-off futuristic fantasy anymore. It's already here.
Right.
It's impacting us every day in ways we might not even realize,
Yeah.
whether it's our lives or businesses.
Yeah.
So understanding AI is really becoming crucial for everyone, no matter what you do.
So, okay, let's break it down. What's this AI thing all about? I think the term machine learning gets thrown around a lot, and it can sound kind of intimidating, to be honest.
For sure.
So how about you just start with explaining, how does machine learning actually work?
Well, think of it like this. We're basically giving a computer tons and tons of data, and we just let it figure out patterns and relationships in that data. So it's like teaching a computer to learn from its experience, just like we do.
So instead of telling the computer exactly what to do,
Yeah.
we're saying hey, here's a bunch of data, you figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the cool thing is the more data we give it, the better it gets at making predictions and decisions. It's really all about finding patterns and then using those patterns to make educated guesses about what might happen in the future.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but can you give us an example? Something that we can really relate to.
Of course, think about when you're on Netflix or Spotify, you get those personalized recommendations. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you might like this movie or you might like this song.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, that's machine learning at work, right?
Right.
The algorithm is basically looking at everything you've watched or listened to, the kind of genres that you seem to like, even what time of day you're usually watching or listening, and uses all that data to suggest stuff you might enjoy.
That makes sense, but how does it actually learn from all this data?
Yeah.
We were reading in our research materials, and it mentioned something called feature extraction. What is that all about?
Yeah, so feature extraction is a really important part of machine learning. Imagine you're trying to, let's say, teach a computer to recognize different types of animals. You wouldn't show it every single pixel of an image, right? You
Yeah.
point out the key features that distinguish a cat from a dog, for example. So like the shape of their ears, whether they have whiskers, things like that. That's basically what feature extraction does. It helps the machine learning model focus on the most relevant information in the data.
So it's kind of like highlighting the important parts
Yeah.
and then just ignoring everything else.
Exactly. It's all about finding the signal in the noise.
That's pretty clever.
It is. And there are different types of features, too. Some are numerical, like if you're thinking about age or income, and some are categorical, like gender or location.
Okay.
Choosing the right features is super important for building a successful model.
Okay, this is all starting to come together, but I'm still a little bit confused about a couple of things.
Yeah.
We've also read about something called regularization and cross-validation.
Right.
Those sound pretty technical. Could you break those down for us?
Absolutely. So let's start with regularization. Think of it like this. When a machine learning model is learning from the data, it can sometimes get a little too excited and start to memorize every single detail,
Right.
even the little random quirks that aren't actually important patterns.
Okay.
This is called overfitting, and it can actually lead to inaccurate predictions.
So it's like when a student crams for a test and they just memorize all the answers,
Yes.
but they don't really understand the concepts?
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
And that's where regularization comes in. It acts like a teacher who says, hey, focus on the core principles, not just the specific examples. It helps the model generalize and make more accurate predictions when it sees new data.
So it's about finding the right balance between learning from the data and not getting too bogged down in all the little,
Right.
random details.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what about cross-validation? What is that all about?
Well, imagine you're a chef and you're coming up with a brand new recipe. You wouldn't just taste it yourself and assume it's perfect.
Right. Of
Yeah,
course
right.
not. You got to test it out on people.
Exactly. You want to get feedback from others to make sure it appeals to, a bunch of different tastes. You want to test it on your friends and family before you serve it at a big dinner party.
Yeah.
And that's basically what cross-validation does. It's a way to test the machine learning model on different subsets of the data to make sure it performs well across the board.
Uh-huh.
Not just on the data that was used to train it initially, it helps us evaluate how well the model will generalize to new unseen data.
So it's like quality control for our machine learning model.
Exactly.
Okay.
Make sure it's ready for the real world.
This is fascinating stuff.
It is.
I'm curious now, like, who are the people behind these AI systems? Like, what kind of teams are actually building and implementing this stuff in the real world?
Yeah, that's a really good question because building a successful AI solution isn't just about the technology, it's also about the people and the culture. You need a team that's really comfortable experimenting, comfortable with uncertainty, and who understand that failure is just a natural part of the learning process.
So it's not just about finding, like, brilliant data scientists. It's about creating an environment where they can actually thrive and take risks.
Absolutely. You need a culture that encourages collaboration, sharing what they know and are learning, and just being willing to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
And that applies to everyone on the team, not just the technical people.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are some of those common team structures that you're seeing in companies that are really successfully implementing AI?
Right.
I think we were reading about a couple of different approaches in our materials. What are those?
Yeah, so there are two really popular models, and one is called the pod model,
Okay.
and the other one is called the Center of Excellence model.
Okay.
So pods are small, self-contained teams. They bring together people with all different skills like data scientists, data engineers, software engineers. They're kind of like mini startups within a company
Okay.
focused on very specific projects. And they can be incredibly efficient, incredibly fast, but sometimes they can lead to these knowledge silos if they're not careful.
So it's like having these specialized strike teams, but you got to make sure that they share their insights with the rest of the company.
Exactly. Exactly. The Center of Excellence model is more like a central hub of AI expertise. It's a team of specialists who can be deployed across different projects in different departments, providing guidance and support. This model is really good for sharing knowledge and avoiding duplicating effort, but it can sometimes be slower to respond to a very specific project's needs.
Got it.
So it's kind of a trade-off.
So it's like speed versus centralized knowledge.
Right.
So what are some of the factors that a company should consider when they're trying to decide which approach is right for them?
It really depends on their size, their structure, and their overall goals. A large, decentralized organization might benefit more from a pod model, while a smaller company might be better off with a center of excellence so they don't spread their resources too thin.
Okay, so now let's say we've got our team in place, we're ready to go. But where do we begin? How do we choose the right AI project to focus on?
Right.
Especially if we're a smaller company, maybe we don't have unlimited resources. What do we do?
Yeah, that's a crucial question. You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the hype and try to go for these really flashy, ambitious projects right off the bat, but
Right.
that can often be a recipe for disaster, especially for smaller companies.
Okay, so resist that temptation to go for the moonshot.
Yeah.
What should companies be focusing on instead?
I would say think about the problems that are already giving you a headache in your business. You know, maybe it's inefficient processes, maybe it's inaccurate forecasting, maybe it's just really hard to keep up with customer demand.
Right.
These things might not sound as exciting as building a self-driving car, but they can have a huge impact on your bottom line if you can solve them.
Right. So start with the practical solvable problems. Don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, data is king.
Right.
Even a seemingly boring project, like, you know, let's say you're trying to improve your sales forecasting. That can be incredibly valuable because it forces you to get your data in order,
Right.
which is crucial if you want to start building more sophisticated AI solutions down the road.
Makes sense. So you need that solid data foundation before you can build anything truly impressive.
Absolutely. And actually, a lot of times when you're going through that process of cleaning and organizing your data, you discover insights and opportunities that you didn't even know existed.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So tackling those less glamorous data projects, it can actually pave the way for some of those more advanced AI applications that you want to do later on.
Absolutely. It's like building a house. You can't start adding floors without making sure the foundation is really strong.
Okay, so we've identified a good problem, we got our data in order, and now we're ready to start building our AI solution. But we can't forget about something else that's really important, right?
Yeah.
What about the human element?
Right. You're absolutely right. It's so easy to get caught up in all this technology stuff that we forget about the actual people who are going to be using this. Implementing AI successfully requires more than just technical expertise. It requires empathy. It requires communication. And you really have to understand how this is going to impact people's jobs, their workflows.
I can imagine people getting a little resistant to the idea of AI,
Yeah.
especially if they're worried that it might replace their job. How do we address that?
Yeah, I think transparency is key. Involve those employees in the process right from the very beginning. Explain to them how AI is going to be used.
What benefits it will bring to the company, and how it will impact their roles?
So instead of surprising them with a fully formed AI solution, bring them along for the journey.
Exactly. Exactly. And don't just tell them, show them. Give them concrete examples of how AI can actually make their jobs easier, more efficient, maybe even more rewarding.
And for the people who are still skeptical, how do we get over that hurdle?
One really effective approach is to actually give employees control over the AI. Let
Yeah.
them experiment with it.
Okay.
Let them provide feedback and really help shape how it's used in their daily work.
So empower them to be part of the solution, not just a recipient of it.
Exactly. When people feel like they have a say in how AI is being implemented, they're much more likely to embrace it. And another powerful technique is to make the AI's decision-making process transparent.
So instead of it being this kind of black box that just spits out answers,
Yes.
we need to be able to understand how the AI is actually arriving at its conclusions. Absolutely. If employees can see the logic behind the AI's recommendations, they're much more likely to trust it.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about for the rest of us who maybe don't have coding skills?
Right.
Is AI still totally out of reach for smaller businesses or individuals who aren't, tech wizards?
Absolutely not. This is where the rise of no-code AI comes in. This is a total game changer because it really democratizes access to AI, and it empowers anyone to build and deploy AI solutions without writing a single line of code.
No code AI. That sounds almost too good to be true. How does that even work?
Well, think about how we use computers today. We don't need to know all those complex programming languages to create a document, a spreadsheet, a presentation. We use these intuitive interfaces, with clickable icons and drag and drop functionality. Yeah. Those graphical interfaces made computers accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
It's huge, right? No-code AI platforms work in a really similar way. They provide visual tools and pre-built components. And you can create AI models by simply connecting the different elements and configuring them to your needs.
So instead of writing code, you're basically building AI models visually, like putting together a puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. And the results can be really powerful. You can build AI models for things like image recognition, natural language processing, predictive analytics, all without writing a single line of code.
Wow, that's really impressive. Can you give us an example, like a real-world example of how a small business might use no-code AI?
Sure. Imagine a small e-commerce company.
Okay.
Let's say they want to improve their marketing campaigns.
Mhm.
They could use a no-code AI platform to build a model that predicts which customers are most likely to make a purchase based on their past behavior, demographics.
Right.
And then they can use that information to target their marketing much more effectively and hopefully get a better return on their investment.
So they're basically using AI to personalize their marketing.
Exactly. And make sure that their messages are actually getting to the right people at the right time.
Right. And they can do all this without hiring a whole team of data scientists or learning how to code.
Wow. So no-code AI is really putting this powerful technology within reach of everyone.
It really is.
Okay, but we got to be realistic too, right?
Hmm.
AI isn't perfect.
Right.
Things can go wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. AI, like any technology, has its limitations. And it's important to know about those potential pitfalls and have a plan in place for when things inevitably go wrong.
Okay, can you give us some example of what could go wrong?
Sure. Imagine you have an AI system that's designed to generate email responses.
Okay.
It might accidentally send a message that's, inappropriate, offensive, especially if it's been trained on a data set that contains, biased or problematic language.
Yeah, that could be really awkward, to say the least.
Definitely.
What about, more serious consequences? Well, think about an AI system that's used to make decisions about loan applications.
Okay.
If it's been trained on data that reflects historical biases, it might unfairly discriminate against certain groups of people.
So even though AI is based on data and algorithms, it can still perpetuate human biases if we're not careful.
That's exactly right. It's crucial to be really mindful of the data that we're using to train these systems and to constantly monitor them for any signs of bias or any unintended consequences.
So we need to be vigilant. We need to make sure that we're using AI responsibly.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps that companies can take to kind of mitigate these risks?
Well, one really important step is to carefully curate the data that's used to train AI systems. Make sure it's diverse and representative and free from bias.
Right.
And also, don't just rely on algorithms to make decisions. Always have a human in the loop to review the AI's recommendations and make sure that they make sense and they're fair and ethical.
Okay.
So it's all about finding that balance between the power of AI and the wisdom of human judgment.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We started with the basics of machine learning. We talked about different team structures, and we discussed how important it is to consider that human element when adopting AI. We even learned about the exciting world of no-code AI and some of the potential pitfalls that we need to watch out for.
For sure.
Now I'm curious, what's next?
Right.
What does the future of AI hold?
Yeah.
What are some of those really exciting developments that are just on the horizon?
The future is incredibly exciting. I mean, there are so many areas where AI is poised to make a big impact.
We were reading about some really cool stuff like natural language processing and reinforcement learning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious about those.
Yeah.
Let's start with natural language processing. What's that all about?
Right. So natural language processing, or NLP for short, is all about teaching computers to understand and generate human language. We're talking about AI that can read texts, translate languages, even write different kinds of creative content. It can even have conversations that sound surprisingly human.
So it's like giving AI the ability to communicate with us in our own language.
Exactly.
That's like straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know it sounds futuristic, but it's already happening. Think about those chatbots that you encounter on websites or virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa. They're all powered by NLP.
Okay, I see. So NLP could really change the way we interact with technology in a big way.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what about reinforcement learning? How's that different from the other approaches that we've been talking about?
So reinforcement learning is a type of machine learning where an AI agent actually learns through trial and error. It learns by interacting with its environment.
Okay.
It's kind of like teaching a dog new tricks, you know? You reward the good behavior, you discourage the bad behavior.
Right.
So instead of being explicitly programmed with all the rules, the AI agent learns by experimenting and figuring out what works best.
So it's kind of learning on its own.
It really is. And this has led to some pretty remarkable breakthroughs.
Like what?
Well, think about AlphaGo, the AI system that beat the world champion Go player.
Yeah, I remember that. That was wild.
That was a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
That was all thanks to reinforcement learning.
Okay, so reinforcement learning isn't just about games and entertainment.
Right.
It's being used to solve some serious real-world problems.
It's used everywhere, from robotics to self-driving cars to optimizing supply chains and even developing new medical treatments.
Wow. So as AI continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more creative and innovative applications of this reinforcement learning stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is all incredibly fascinating, but there's one more thing I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
We've talked about how to build individual AI solutions,
Mm-hmm.
but how do companies take this to the next level?
Yeah.
How do they scale AI across their entire organization? How do they make AI an integral part of everything they do?
That's a great question, and it's one of the biggest challenges companies face today. It's not enough to just have a few successful AI projects here and there. You need to create a system that allows you to build, deploy, and manage AI solutions at scale.
I think I read in the materials that there's something called MLOps that can help with this.
Yeah, that's right. So MLOps stands for Machine Learning Operations, and it's basically about bringing the principles of software engineering to the world of AI. It's about creating a streamlined process for developing, testing, deploying, and monitoring AI models in a reliable and scalable way.
So it's like building a factory for AI solutions where you can churn out high-quality models quickly and efficiently.
That's a great analogy. And just like any successful factory, MLOps requires a big investment in three key areas: standardized processes, specialized teams, and the right tools.
Okay, so let's break those down. What do we mean by standardized processes?
So imagine you have a really well-defined blueprint for building and deploying your AI models. This makes sure that everybody's following the same steps, they're using the same best practices, and you're getting consistent results. It's about taking the guesswork out of the process and making it repeatable and scalable.
Okay. And what about these specialized teams part?
Well, scaling AI requires a lot of different skills. You've got data science, engineering, DevOps, cloud computing. You need to have these specialized teams that can work together seamlessly to build, deploy, and manage all these AI solutions at scale.
Okay. So it's like having this like all-star team of experts, each with their own superpower, working together towards a common goal. Now, what about the tools?
The right tools are absolutely essential for automating tasks, for managing data, for collaborating effectively.
Hmm.
We're talking about tools for data preparation, model training, model deployment, and monitoring their performance.
So investing in the right technology is a key part of all of this.
It is. It really is. It really is.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, we've demystified machine learning. We've talked about all those different team structures. We've talked about how important it is to think about the people involved when you're adopting AI.
Right.
We even learned about no-code AI, which
Yeah.
sounds amazing,
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
and some of the potential things that could go wrong that we need to keep in mind.
For sure. Always good to be prepared.
But now I want to look ahead a little bit. What's next for AI?
Right.
What does the future hold? What are some of the exciting developments that are on the horizon?
The future of AI is incredibly exciting. There are so many areas where it's poised to make a huge impact.
Our sources mention some really cool stuff like natural language processing and reinforcement learning.
Yeah,
Can we dig into those a little bit?
absolutely.
Okay, let's start with natural language processing, or NLP. What's that all about?
Well, NLP is all about teaching computers to understand and generate human language. We're talking about AI that can read text, translate languages, write different kinds of creative content, and even have conversations that sound surprisingly human.
So it's like giving AI the ability to talk to us in our own language.
Exactly.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
It might sound futuristic, but it's already happening.
Ugh.
Think about those chatbots you encounter on websites or virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa. They're all powered by NLP.
I see. So NLP could really change the way we interact with technology in a big way.
Absolutely. It has the potential to revolutionize how we communicate and access information.
Okay, that's really exciting. Now, what about reinforcement learning? How is that different from the other machine learning approaches we've been talking about?
So reinforcement learning is a type of machine learning where an AI agent learns through trial and error by interacting with its environment. It's kind of like teaching a dog new tricks. You reward good behavior and discourage bad behavior.
So instead of being explicitly programmed with rules, the AI agent is learning by experimenting and figuring out what works best on its own.
Exactly. And this approach has led to some remarkable breakthroughs, like AlphaGo, the AI system that beat a world champion Go player.
Yeah, that was a huge milestone. So reinforcement learning isn't just about games and entertainment then. It's being used to solve real-world problems too.
Absolutely. It's being used in a wide range of applications, from robotics and self-driving cars to optimizing supply chains and developing new personalized medical treatments.
Wow. So as AI continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more creative and innovative applications of reinforcement learning.
Definitely. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but there's one more thing I'm wondering about. We've talked about how to build individual AI solutions, but how do companies take this to the next level? How do they scale AI across their entire organization? How do they make AI an integral part of everything they do?
That's a great question, and it's one of the biggest challenges companies face today. It's not enough to just have a few successful AI projects here and there. You need to create a system that allows you to build, deploy, and manage AI solutions at scale.
I think we read in the materials that there's something called MLOps that can help with this. What exactly is that?
Yeah, MLOps stands for Machine Learning Operations. It's essentially about bringing the principles of software engineering to the world of AI. It's about creating a streamlined, reliable process for developing, testing, deploying, and monitoring AI models in a scalable way.
So it's like building a factory for AI solutions
Yeah.
where you can produce high-quality models quickly and efficiently.
That's a great analogy. And just like any successful factory, MLOps requires a significant investment in three key areas: standardized processes, specialized teams, and the right tools.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. What do we mean by standardized processes?
So imagine you have a really well-defined blueprint for building and deploying AI models. This ensures that everyone is following the same steps, they're using the same best practices, and you're going to get consistent results. It takes the guesswork out of the process and makes it repeatable and scalable.
Okay, that makes sense. What about specialized teams? What do we need to think about there?
Well, scaling AI requires a diverse set of skills, right? You need data science, engineering, DevOps, cloud computing. You need to build specialized teams that can all work together seamlessly to build, deploy, and manage AI solutions at scale.
Okay, so it's like having this all-star team of experts, each with their own superpower, all working together towards a common goal.
Exactly.
Now, what about the tools? What kind of tools are we talking about here?
The right tools are absolutely essential for automating those tasks, managing the data, and collaborating effectively. We're talking about things like tools for data preparation, for model training, model deployment, and for monitoring their performance.
So investing in the right technology is key.
It really is. Without the right tools, it's like trying to build a house with your bare hands.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of standardized processes, specialized teams, and having the right tools. What are some other key considerations for companies that are trying to scale AI effectively?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to have a clear vision and strategy for AI adoption. You need to know what you want to achieve with AI, and you need to have a roadmap for getting there.
So don't just jump into AI without a plan.
Exactly. Figure out what problems you're trying to solve, what opportunities you want to capitalize on, and how AI can help you achieve your business goals.
That makes a lot of sense. What about data? We've talked about data a lot already, but how does data play into scaling AI?
Data is the fuel that powers AI. You need to have a solid data strategy in place, and you need to make sure you have access to the right data. That means having clean, accurate, and relevant data that's well organized and easily accessible.
And it's not just about having the data, right? It's also about being able to manage and process that data effectively.
Absolutely. You need the right infrastructure and tools to store, process, and analyze large volumes of data. And you need to have the expertise to extract meaningful insights from that data.
So it's a combination of having the right data, the right infrastructure, and the right people.
Exactly. And don't forget about the importance of data governance. You need to have clear policies and procedures in place to ensure that your data is being used responsibly and ethically.
Okay, so data is crucial. What about the cultural aspects of scaling AI? How do you create a culture that embraces AI and supports its adoption?
Culture is incredibly important. You need to create an environment where people are excited about AI, where they're willing to experiment and learn, and where they feel empowered to use AI to make their jobs easier and more impactful.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people.
Exactly. And it's about leadership. Leaders need to champion AI, they need to invest in training and development, and they need to create a culture that rewards innovation and experimentation.
It sounds like scaling AI successfully requires a holistic approach. You need to have a clear vision, a solid data strategy, the right infrastructure, the right people, and a culture that embraces AI.
Absolutely. It's a complex undertaking, but the rewards can be significant.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges and the opportunities of scaling AI. What's next? What are some of the emerging trends in the world of AI that we should be paying attention to?
Well, one of the most exciting trends is the rise of Edge AI. Edge AI is about bringing AI processing power closer to the source of data, whether that's a smartphone, a sensor, or a self-driving car.
So instead of sending data to the cloud for processing, we're doing it right there on the device.
Exactly. And this has a number of advantages, including reduced latency, improved privacy, and increased reliability.
What are some examples of edge AI in action?
Well, think about facial recognition on your smartphone or real-time language translation on your earbuds. Those are all examples of Edge AI.
That's pretty cool. What other trends are you seeing?
Another trend that's gaining momentum is the use of AI for sustainability. Companies are using AI to optimize energy consumption, reduce waste, and develop more environmentally friendly products and services.
So AI is not just about making businesses more efficient, it's also about making the world a better place.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning. As AI continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovative applications that will benefit both businesses and society as a whole.
This is all incredibly exciting. It sounds like AI is going to continue to transform the world in ways we can't even imagine yet. But before we wrap up, I want to come back to something you said earlier about the importance of using AI responsibly. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Of course. As with any powerful technology, there are potential risks and ethical considerations that we need to be mindful of when it comes to AI. We've already touched on bias, but there are other issues like privacy, job displacement, and the potential for misuse.
Right, so it's not enough to just focus on the technical aspects of AI. We also need to think about the societal and ethical implications.
Absolutely. We need to have open and honest conversations about these issues, and we need to develop guidelines and regulations to ensure that AI is used for good.
So it's not just about what AI can do, it's also about how we use it.
Exactly. We need to make sure that AI is used in a way that benefits humanity as a whole, not just a select few.
That's a really important point.
Mhm.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the world of AI, what final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important message is that AI is a powerful tool, but it's just a tool. It's up to us as humans to decide how we use it. We need to be thoughtful, responsible, and proactive in shaping the future of AI.
Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of AI. We hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have.
And we encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating field that is shaping the future.
It really is.
It really is, yeah.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We went from the basics of machine learning all the way to, the cutting edge of AI. We talked about the challenges and the opportunities of scaling AI across an organization.
It's a lot to take in.
What are some of the key takeaways that you'd like our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that AI is no longer some futuristic concept that we see in movies.
Right?
It's here, it's real, and it's transforming the world as we speak.
And you don't need to be a tech genius to understand it either.
Hmm.
We've seen how it's already being used in so many everyday applications, from personalized recommendations
Oh
to
my.
spam filters and so much more.
Exactly.
And companies of any size can benefit from using AI, whether it's to improve efficiency, gain insights from data, or even create those innovative new products and services.
Exactly.
But we've also discussed, the importance of using AI responsibly,
Yeah.
addressing potential biases, and just being mindful of that human element when it comes to adopting AI.
For sure. It's a tool that needs to be wielded carefully.
What's the best way for people to stay ahead of the curve and keep learning about this really rapidly changing field?
Well, there are tons of great resources available online, blogs, articles, even courses and podcasts that focus specifically on AI.
Okay.
The key is to just stay curious, keep experimenting, and never stop learning.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of AI.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. We hope you enjoyed this journey as much as we did.
Absolutely. And we encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating field. It's a field that's shaping our future in really incredible ways.